Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast. Time to hashtag everything. We talk about all the fun, crazy stories on social media. From Instagram to Facebook, Twitter to Tumblr, or probably even Friendster. Join us each week as we explore the quirky side of social media. It's the Golden State Media Concepts social media podcast.
It's simple, such a sad song. The one that we rely on to get us.
Thanks for tuning in to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Kayla Moeller. Hello, all you cool cats and kittens. Has everybody seen Tiger King by now? I hope so. Even O.J. Simpson has seen it. He posted a video of himself to Twitter talking about Tiger King, and he said, "White people, what's with you and wild animals? Leave them animals alone." And I definitely have to agree with that. I can't believe I'm agreeing with O.J. Simpson. And then he also went on to say, Carole Baskin's husband is now Tiger Sashimi, meaning that he definitely thinks Carole Baskin killed her husband and fed him to the tigers, and that's super ironic coming from him. And also, Tekashi 6ix9ine got released from prison on April Fool's Day due to coronavirus. And look at all these crazy people just out and about everywhere walking among us. So he's out of prison, and he's serving the remainder of his 2-year sentence at home, or at like an approved address. And he's going to be required to wear a GPS monitor for the first 4 months. That's kind of weird. I would assume that he would have to wear like an ankle monitor for the rest of his time, but I guess it's only for the first 4 months, which is odd to me. He got released because he has asthma, and his lawyers argued that it's dangerous for him to be in prison. He's at high risk, and other people are getting let out of prison because of this virus, so he should be too. And obviously they got their way because he's out. And we have now surpassed over 1 million cases of this virus worldwide. The United States has around 250,000 of the cases, and then the most in the United States is in New York, and they have over 90,000 cases. And the state of Georgia has a little over 5,000 cases right now. And the reason I'm mentioning Georgia is because the governor of Georgia is being ripped apart on Twitter right now. So this guy, his name is, he's Governor Brian Kemp. And he did a press release saying that he wasn't aware that asymptomatic people carrying the virus could pass it on to other people. But that's pretty common knowledge, and it has been for quite some time. So it's really worrisome that a governor for like a whole state was just informed of that. Kind of makes you think how our officials are handling this and talking to each other. And Chrissy Teigen, she even weighed in on it, and she quote tweeted an article about him just now being informed about asymptomatic people being carriers. And she said, "I am very dumb, and I knew this," which that's funny. That's pretty funny. But I mean, it is kind of alarming because, yeah, I mean, Chrissy Teigen, she's just like a celebrity, and she knows that. And a whole governor didn't know that. It's just pretty crazy. And we all know and love the Cuomo brothers. Chris Cuomo, he hosts a primetime show on CNN. And his older brother, Andrew Cuomo, who is the governor of New York. And Andrew Cuomo has been doing a great job, in my opinion, with the whole pandemic. He's really taking it seriously. New York's getting hit hard. He's probably very stressed. The two brothers have been growing in popularity over the past few weeks because they've had to, go on the news together. Chris Cuomo will have Andrew come on and they'll talk about things about coronavirus, and we've kind of seen them in the spotlight lately. And they talk to each other totally like any pair of brothers. It's hilarious. They bicker. They talk about who's the favorite child, and they just dog on each other. And it's really entertaining and it's wholesome. It humanizes these people because we're kind of so far away from, governors and news people who are really well known. So it just shows that they can be normal too. But unfortunately, Chris has coronavirus. He's tested positive and he is feeling the symptoms hard. He says that he has had such bad fevers that he's actually hallucinated a couple times. So their father passed away and he says that he's hallucinated seeing his dead father. And then he also went on air and told his brother Andrew, he said, "Man, I'm having such hallucinations. I saw you in some costume dancing away in one of these dreams, and you're waving a wand around saying, 'I wish I could make this go away.'" So I guess he is having very intense fever dreams if he's dreaming about his dead father and his brother in a ballet costume. That's kind of unnerving. I mean, I don't know. Fever dreams, I guess that's no joke. And he says that he can barely even keep it together and that he's lucky because he has a wife who's helping him out, keeping him fed, checking in on him. But he mentions how hard it must be for the people who don't have that, who have to go through this alone. And Chris is a pretty healthy guy who seems pretty fit, and I think he's 49 years old, so he's not very old. And he's really struggling with this virus. So it kind of shows, yes, that anybody can get it, but it can kind of knock anybody down too. It can really be a terrible symptomatic thing for just about anybody. It's not for old people at this point, and we kind of have to wake up to that because this whole time we've just been thinking that it's only affecting old people, but it's not. And even if it were just affecting old people, that's horrible too. So we really have started to take this seriously, but I think that we should have started to take it seriously long ago. Okay, coming up, I'm going to talk about a guy who crashed a train in the name of a coronavirus conspiracy. We'll be right back.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast, dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Okay, I'm back. I just talked about the Cuomo brothers and how Chris, the CNN primetime host, has unfortunately been diagnosed with the virus and how it's taken quite a toll on him. So next, I'm going to get into a story about a man who intentionally ran a train off of the tracks. So this train conductor driver guy, in the spur of the moment, decided to run the train he was driving straight off the tracks totally endangering innocent vehicles driving around or pedestrians or who have you, in order to try to crash into or near the Navy ship docked in a Los Angeles port. And it's the same ship that I told you about in the last podcast. It's called Mercy, and it's being used because of coronavirus. It's specifically housing non-coronavirus trauma patients right now in order to kind of free up land hospitals to really focus on the virus. It's getting compromised trauma patients out of there, and that's what that ship is for. And this train guy, he is something else, man. His name is Eduardo Moreno, Moreno. So he flips off the security camera that's inside the train. He puts it in full throttle and just absolutely demolished all the barriers and fences, concrete walls, everything that was in the way before the train came to a halt. And an officer was nearby and saw what was happening. And he goes right to the scene of the accident. And this guy, Eduardo, gets out and he's wearing a bright yellow vest because it's part of his uniform. And he just takes off running, like just, whoo. But then obviously they caught him. It's not hard to lose sight of somebody in a yellow vest. And as soon as he was caught, this guy says, quote, "You only get this chance once. The whole world is watching. I had to. People don't know what's going on here. Now they will." End quote. So this guy thinks that there's some sort of secret going on with like a government takeover and coronavirus, and he had a whole bunch of suspicions about the ship and what it's being used for, and he didn't think that it was actually being used for what they're telling us it's being used for. And the crazy part is this guy didn't plan this at all. When he got to work in the morning, everything was totally normal. Just walked in, clocked in, saw his coworkers. Nobody said anything was out of the ordinary. And he wasn't expecting to crash the train. He says it was like a sudden spur-of-the-moment thing. He saw the opportunity and just took it without thinking. And thankfully, there were no injuries. That would have been absolutely devastating and horrible if some innocent person were to have gotten hurt or even died because some crazy conspiracy nut wanted to prove a point that really is non-existent. And the guy, he's so lucky he didn't hurt somebody because he'd be in a lot more trouble. And right now, he's facing a train wrecking charge, which carries a maximum sentencing of 20 years. So he's facing a sentencing of 20 years for this spur-of-the-moment decision that he made. And something tells me that he might get close to or the maximum because he just has no remorse at all. He's quoted telling the cops that it was freaking exciting to do that. Like he was thrilled by it. And he's like proud of himself or something. And he's like, yeah, like now the public's going to know the truth. I shed light on this and I brought the public eye to it. But it's kind of like, brought the public eye to what, dude? I mean, everybody knows that it's being used because of coronavirus. It's not like it's the only ship out there, the only Navy ship being used for it. There's one in New York, and there's several more coming. It's just to help us out. That always, like, that's a normal thing that happens in a disaster. And I don't really know what his end goal was besides bringing light on something that doesn't really exist. I don't know. But I don't think he really knew either. Like, did he think it was like in the movies and the train was going to fly off the track and propel into the air and land in the ship or something? I mean, first of all, if it had got far enough to the ship, it would have just fallen into the water first. And then he could have died. But it didn't even make it that far. It stopped like 800 feet before the port. But the train was pulling a single rail car, and it didn't have anybody else on board, thank goodness. And he was totally fine too, not injured. He ran away. But also, while he was doing it, while he was crashing through things, he was holding a flare out of the window. I don't know if that was for dramatic effect or what, because he wanted everybody to see what was going on, or I have no idea. And then how I mentioned he flipped off the cameras. Just a all-around strange situation, considering he had no plan to do this at all. And I'm not quite sure what it is he thinks is going on inside the ship. But I'm very glad that the train did not crash through it and then injure hospital patients who are already injured. Things could have really been a lot worse. Okay, so next up, after the break, I'm going to talk about blood. So stay tuned.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back. I just told you about the guy who purposefully crashed a train in order to discover and shed light on the truth, supposedly, about suspicions that he had about the ship Mercy and some weird supposed government takeover conspiracy. I don't know. The guy sounds like a nut to me. But moving on. So last week I talked about blood donations and how they have rules and guidelines and all that. But if you're able to, then donate because they are experiencing a shortage right now. So for example, one of their rules is they don't really take blood from gay men still, even now in 2020. It has to do with the whole AIDS and HIV epidemic back in the 70s and 80s. They used to not take blood from any gay man ever, but then they changed the rules to accepting gay men's blood who haven't had sex in 12 months. So they have to be abstinent for a year before they can donate blood. And it has to do, with the whole blood infection thing. And then they recently changed it again to they have to be abstinent for 3 months. And they say it's because men who have sex with men have a higher risk of being infected with blood-borne infections. And the 3-month window allows room for blood screenings. So like if they were recently infected and they weren't aware, then the 3-month window kind of is like a extra precaution. And it's pretty crazy, though, because obviously not all gay men are infected or will ever be infected. So it's a bit of a reach there, barring an entire community of people who would otherwise be willing to donate blood to save another person. It seems very outdated to me, kind of wrong. But this whole thing has been in the spotlight on Facebook lately. I've seen a lot of posts about it. And that's because the whole 3 months of abstinence thing was brought about because of coronavirus. Because the Red Cross is in urgent need of blood. They've had to cancel a lot of their blood drives. So they loosened the rules a bit and made it, instead of being abstinent for a year, being abstinent for 3 months. But that still excludes, like, gay men who are married to each other, who are only doing it with each other, who are healthy and don't have any blood infections. But, I mean, if they're sexually active, then that they can't donate blood. And, that's a shame. I don't know what the answer is, because I understand the Red Cross is trying to be very cautious, as they should be, but they can't just bar an entire community of people like that. That's just not right. Okay, and another thing about blood. Well, not blood, I guess, because I'm gonna talk about plasma. So, I'm gonna talk about something called convalescent plasma therapy. And before I get into that, let me tell you what plasma is. Plasma is a clearish like liquid. It's kind of a bit, it's yellowish, but it's what's left over after red and white blood cells and platelets are removed from the blood. And plasma is great because that's where you find antibodies. It holds antibodies, which are great for fighting disease. So what they're doing right now with this therapy is this plasma is taken from the blood of a recovered COVID-19 patient. So your standard patient will donate like a pint of blood, and it's turned into plasma, which is kept aside. And then the red and white blood cell platelets that were removed are then put back into the donor's bloodstream. And even though it's just the plasma being used, the donor and the receiver both need to have compatible blood types. So then after that, the idea is the receiver's body gets antibodies from this plasma from a person who has already fought off the virus successfully. And it will then, in turn, help the ill person's body fight off the virus too. And this method has been used for like a century, and it helps sometimes, but it's not some cure-all thing. And it works better for some illnesses rather than others. Does that make sense? Like, it works better sometimes than other times. So we have no idea if it's going to help with coronavirus, but it's definitely worth a shot. And the more likely thing is that it's not just going to cure these ill patients, but it might slow their decline, and then they'll be able to wean off a ventilator and hopefully recover. So then it's kind of like it slows the decline. So then they can get off a ventilator, and then another really sick person can get on it, and they can get people in and out better. So these plasma therapy trials are underway right now. And depending on how successful it is, we could be seeing it more widespread. And, I'm really hoping that it works out, because that would be just wonderful. Okay, so next I'm going to talk about a student who's been creating ventilators out of items that he bought at Home Depot. Okay, I'll be right back.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's GSMCpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Hi, I'm back. I just told you about convalescent plasma therapy and blood donation rules that are being loosened for the pandemic. So now let's talk about this UCLA student who invented a ventilator out of stuff that he bought at Home Depot. Obviously, it's not being used for real patients. It's just a prototype. But the student is working with all these professionals to really try to get it into action. So the ventilators that we're used to hearing about are super complex, right? They're life support. They can do like a whole bunch of things. They have a whole bunch of features and they can be fine-tuned based on the illness or the patient's needs. They're like really sophisticated. But for coronavirus, we don't need all that fancy stuff. We don't need some super sophisticated machine with all these features. We don't need any of that. A severely ill coronavirus patient just needs like the oxygen part of it. They just need the breathing feature that breathes for them so their body can rest while the machine breathes for them. And this UCLA student, he recognized that and decided to do something about it. Love that. His name is Glenn Meyerowitz. Meyerowitz. And he consulted with a whole bunch of clinicians, medical professionals, manufacturers, all around the world and the nation, people who have worked with coronavirus patients to kind of figure out exactly what a device would need for a coronavirus patient. And after getting all the information, he headed to Home Depot and came up with a prototype in under a week. And now he's in contact with all these manufacturers to try to get things going. And if they start mass producing them, then they're expecting his Home Depot ventilator to cost around $1,000 a piece, as opposed to the $40,000 ventilators that have all the sophistication. So that's a huge difference in price. And I'm just summarizing. Obviously, there's a lot more work that went into this, and he didn't just head into Home Depot and put something together. Like, a lot of research went into this, a bunch of studies, a lot of back and forth, all of that. But, at least somebody is doing something, and I'm cheering this guy on. Okay, and then here's a story about regular people doing something too. See, you don't have to be a genius grad student to do good. So a neighborhood in the United Kingdom wanted to show appreciation for a local nurse fighting coronavirus on the front lines. And they did so by designating a prime parking spot just for her right in front of her house. So she never has to look for parking or park around the block. And I guess parking is a bit of a hassle in their neighborhood. And when she gets home from her shifts, she kind of struggles to find a spot. And that's the last thing anybody wants to do, but especially somebody fighting coronavirus right now. So they decided to keep one spot open at all times for her. They put a little sign out. They put spray paint on the street so nobody parks there, and everybody's just letting her have it. And it's a small thing, but it's, kind of goes a long way. It shows appreciation, and that probably made her feel good that her community is looking out for her. Okay, and then there is a viral tweet going around. It's about like a little natural concoction that helps get rid of bacteria. And while it won't cure coronavirus or anything, it could help people who have a common cold or allergies. So the tweet came from user at Carolee Not Sanity. And Carolee is spelled with a K. And so far, it has over 70,000 retweets and 275,000 likes. So it's reached a lot of people. Okay, and it says, orange peels, sea salt, and vapor rub. Boil together and sit in front of the pot for 15 minutes. This releases bacteria from the nose, throat, and lungs. And then it has a picture of it all boiling in a pot together. So I just thought I'd share that in case it could be helpful to someone who's feeling stuffed up from allergies or whatever. Okay, and next I'm going to talk about another social media trend, this time about Zoom backgrounds.
Always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. Jordan and Keith is Entertainment Tonight meets Access Hollywood.
I'm Jordan. The guy laughing, that's Keith.
Yeah, I'm Keith. An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
Hello, welcome back. We were just talking about a UCLA grad student who came up with a budget-friendly ventilator prototype made out of stuff that he found at Home Depot. Very cool. So next, we all know Zoom now because it's like our primary form of communication during quarantine for schools, meetings, conferences, you name it. And on Zoom, they give you an option to have a background of your choice. And there's a hilarious story going around on social media about a woman who was having a virtual Zoom meeting with her employees. And so she's the boss. And as a joke, like kind of before everybody started coming in, she made herself and her background of her as a potato. So you can't see her face except for her eyes and lips that are just kind of planted on this potato. And then she couldn't figure out how to get it off. So then she continued the entire meeting as a potato. And her employees took a picture and posted it online, and it has won the hearts of everybody. It's hysterical. And there's like a lot of funny backgrounds that people are making now because of that, from memes and just stuff that I've seen online. And then they're posting it to Twitter for people to take and use for their own backgrounds. So if you're into that sort of thing, or you want to make your classmates laugh or whatever, then you should go check that out. They're like everywhere, and some of them actually are pretty funny. Okay, and then this is kind of crazy. So the Navy fired Captain Brett Crozier for raising alarm about the outbreak of COVID-19 on his ship, and they fired him because they say he acted in an inappropriate manner. So Captain Crozier was extremely upset because he felt he wasn't getting enough help from the Navy to contain the outbreak. So he wrote some memorandums, angry letters, and I guess one of them or some of them ended up getting leaked to the public. And his superiors were mad about that. And they feel that he didn't use proper protocol and proper chain of command rules. They're complaining that the captain demonstrated poor judgment and created anxiety within the crew. And now, of course, I'm not a part of this, so I don't know all the details, but after reading up on everything, I'll tell you kind of what I've come up with from it. So it seems to me that there was an outbreak on Captain Crozier's ship. And this is very scary because you're on a ship. There's no escaping it. Like it just gets worse. Like you can't really social distance. You're all on a freaking ship. And everything in the military takes so long. Like seriously so long. And I was in Air Force ROTC, so I have like a little bit of experience with this. And yeah, the military takes forever doing things. You have to follow all these steps. You have to send a bunch of memorandums to all these different people. You have to have all these meetings, and it all has to go up the chain of command. And that takes forever. You can't just like skip people and get to the top. So things take a while. And I think that this captain He knew that, and he was trying to say like, hi, hello, I need help now. My soldiers are getting this virus, and it's just going to get worse, and we need someone to take us off or take some people off this ship and put them somewhere else and isolate them. And he was saying that stuff, but it was taking too long. Like, it was like, and all this can literally take a month or I mean, I don't know the exact time it took, but it can take a long time. And he knew that he didn't have that kind of time, so he just went crazy and started writing all these angry letters and memorandums until he got someone's attention. And it got leaked to the public. And now that's a whole other issue because it makes the Navy look bad, like they weren't acting and taking care of their own. And they might have been doing something. They might have been acting. It just wasn't quick enough. And the captain knew that, so he took matters into his own hands. So now, since it got leaked, the Navy is looking at that as reckless on the captain's part, and like he wasn't following the rules, so they fired him, which is very unfortunate. But his sounding the alarm and making this public definitely sped things up, and who knows, it could have saved lives. All of this could have saved lives, so it might have been worth it. But again, I have no idea what actually went down. Maybe the captain was totally in the wrong, I'm not sure. But that's just kind of what I got out of it after I read through everything. Okay, commercial coming. I will be right back to talk about viral drone guy.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Hey, I'm back. So I just talked about Captain Crozier, who was fired by the Navy for raising concerns over coronavirus creeping up on his ship. So now let's talk about viral drone guy, or that's at least what the internet named him. So I guess this guy posted a video while he's stuck in quarantine, and he was looking out his window, and he saw a girl across the street dancing on her roof. He thought it was super cute. He was mesmerized, you know, all that. He waved to her. She waved back, and that was the start of it. And he couldn't go over there. She couldn't come to him. So he set up his drone and attached his phone number to it and flew it over to her. And it had like a camera on it. And then she caught the drone, got the phone number, and texted him and whatever. It's what they're calling a quarantine love story. And it totally went viral. Everybody's been watching it. It's kind of cute. And it's funny because when I went on Twitter today, there's this whole section on Twitter that's just dedicated to debunking that video. Like, people are like, it's not real, that couldn't have happened, blah, blah, blah. And they made a couple good points. Like, somebody said, oh, yeah, well, that can't be real because that drone was really nice and it cost over $1,000, and nobody in their right mind would just send over a drone to a stranger like that, especially one who was across the street on a roof, because if she just took off with the drone, he would never see her again, you know, because it's not like he can get down there and cross the street and get onto the roof that quick. She'd be long gone, and they're on quarantine. But also, who cares? It's just a nice little video, and it doesn't matter if it's fake or not. I mean, we watch fairy tales that are fake and like those. I mean, it's okay. Just let people enjoy things. But the internet is also going crazy about this doctor who went on Fox News, and he did not feed into them. He told the truth about the limited testings that are available for coronavirus, and Fox had kind of just been implying, oh yeah, there's so many tests, there's millions of tests, and are we seeing them now, and blah, blah, blah. And he was shaking his head, being like, no, 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 no. There are not a lot of tests. There are some, and they're great tests, but there are not as many as we need. And we've known about this for a long time. There's no reason that we shouldn't have tests, blah, blah, blah. And he just spoke the truth. And it's not like Fox News or any news could have told him otherwise, because he's a doctor and he's seeing it and experiencing it firsthand. So when we're getting all this information, and I mean, this guy's seeing it, so that's who we should kind of believe. But anyways, so the same guy is now in isolation, and he believes that he has the virus, which is very scary and also quite sad. Now it's one less doctor to help other people. He's hurting. And what's going to happen when all of these brave doctors and nurses keep going to work and then they all eventually get it? They're not immune. They're still human beings. I mean, yes, they are far superior because they are so brave and heroic, but they're still human beings and they're not immune to this. So who's going to take care of them when they all get sick? It's hard to think about. But social distancing has been proving to slow the spread, so keep it up, people. And also, my mom kind of had a good thing to think about. It's allergy season, so people are going to start sneezing all the time. That's just what you do when you have allergies. You sneeze, sneeze, sneeze. And that's dangerous because sneezes are what makes it spread. So a person could be asymptomatic, but they could still be a carrier of it. And then if they sneeze because of allergies, then they're spewing coronavirus everywhere. So this is just not a good time for this to be about. There's never a good time for this to happen, but just think about that. If you have allergies, really try hard to sneeze into your elbow and then go wash your shirt, because you don't want to spray your sneeze everywhere right now, or anytime, but especially right now. And now the health officials, or just public officials, have also said, okay, actually, yeah, the public maybe should start wearing masks, when before they were saying, no, the public doesn't need to wear masks. They don't do anything to help. When in reality, they meant they help, and our doctors and nurses need them. So we're going to tell you that it doesn't help, so people don't go out and hoard them and panic buy a bunch of masks, because then there won't be any for our first line responders. Which I get it, but they shouldn't have lied. That's kind of not good, especially because now they're walking it back and they're starting to be like, oh, just kidding. Actually, masks do work and you should all be wearing them. So that's another thing that you're going to start seeing in the news, is a lot about whether or not the public should be wearing masks. So look out for that. Maybe if you see a mask, buy a couple for yourself. Do not panic buy and hoard them, because it is true. Hospitals definitely need them more than you. You don't need heavy duty masks, but maybe just a little something if you have to go to the grocery store. But stay safe, keep your hands washed, social distance, because I do think it is kind of making a difference. That's all for tonight. Sneeze into your elbow, keep your hands washed, like I just said. Thank you for listening to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Once again, I am your host, Kayla Moeller. And if you could do me a favor and subscribe to this show, that helps us out. And don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Social Media Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.